Welcome to Ultiworld.com's live press conference here after the men's championship game. We have from the runners-up Chicago Machine, Kurt Gibson and Walden Nelson. So, guys, heck of a performance by the D-line in the second half there. I believe it was 5 breaks in a row at one point. What was the shift that happened from that first half where Sockeye's offense was looking cool and calm and able to work the deep space, work the unders, to a second half where you had them sweating pretty hard?
You want me to take it?
You can take it.
Well, the first half we were forcing them flick, and they were, doing frankly just very well against it. And they played pretty close to a perfect first half. And I think we were sitting there at halftime and we kind of got in the huddle and said, look, if they continue to play close to a perfect game, they probably deserve to win. But we really got in the huddle and, I just remember saying, hey, look, if we keep the pressure on like we have, these last few games, they're eventually going to crack, right? And if they don't, again, more power to them. But we both had confidence that they were going to crack, and they did. They gave us the opening, and we just kind of kept pounding on, right? And I think one of the big things we did was switch to backhand, and that really kind of, I think, messed with them and gave us a few opportunities, and we took advantage of them.
Were there any particular matchups that you had on their offensive line that you wanted specific personnel on? It seemed as though you rotated a little bit who was covering Dylan, who was covering Rader, who was covering Simon, but by the end it settled into Walden on Dylan and Kurt, yourself on Simon. But were there anything about those matchups in particular you liked, or that you knew that, okay, we need to take this away from those players?
I'll take it, yeah. We knew they ran their offense through Simon, Dylan, and Rader, so we wanted to make sure that they had to work really hard. We tried some different people in the first half. Did not work out that well, so we changed it up, put a more experienced defenders on them just to try to contain them a little bit more, try to get blocks on their other guys, and it worked out a lot better.
So, Walden, in particular, you were covering Dylan Freechild throughout most of the second half. What's that matchup like? He's one of the best players in the game, has been for a little while. What are you doing when you're trying to guard a player like that?
I'm just trying to contain him. He is extremely fast, really good. He's going to beat you at least one of the ways, so it's just trying to... the game plan was to force him under, especially going downwind, make him throw a lot more passes. I think it worked out pretty well. He also wasn't cutting that as much in the second half as he was in the first half. He was more just holding space for other guys.
Speaking of downwind, the wind started playing more of a role in the second half. Was there any technical adjustment that you made with that, or did your game plan stay the same in both halves?
Defensively, we just switched to backhand. We tried our zone too, which worked out pretty well. We were pretty happy with how it worked. Offensive, for our O-line, we just never figured out the wind really. We really struggled pulling up wind on offense the whole game.
Yeah, I think defensively, it was a windy day, obviously, and like you said, it picked up, and the flick just wasn't working, and it was almost reminiscent from 2012 when we were playing Revolver. That first game we played in where we got smoked, we marked flick the whole time, and then we switched to backhand, and because they were just so good at isolating space in that first half and hitting their open guys that if we felt the backhand mark, it just made it a little harder for them to kind of zip them in. And I think that really gave us the catch-up speed to not be able to just rifle in some of those throws, and it obviously helped us out tremendously in the second half.
All right, last one from me. So you come off of an incredible performance last night where there's a lot of intensity, a lot of energy. It's under the lights. There's the big crowd. Everything's exciting. And then all of a sudden you've got a noon game in a kind of hazy, half-empty crowd. And the energy just was different heading into this game than it was heading into the semifinal. Can you talk about the effect that had and how you tried to deal with it?
I don't think it had much effect. I love playing under the lights. I think most people would agree with that. So it's definitely different to play right in the middle of the day. And it certainly is overcast, maybe more of Seattle's type weather than, I guess it is kind of Chicago's a lot of times too. Pretty dreary, a lot colder though. So yeah, it's a different vibe, but I really don't think that had too much of a, say in kind of the outcome of the game. I think the wind was really probably the bigger factor that kind of changed the dynamic from yesterday.
And do you find that a windy game has a different kind of impact on your energy than in a still wind game?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just going to be, there's going to be more mistakes, more turnovers. So it's a little bit more of a grind than in calm conditions.
Question for you, Walden, but I'll open it up to Kurt as well. Machine's D-line looked very different pre-2018 from how it looks right now. Can you speak to what it's been like to bring in those pieces like Nate Goff and Johnny Bansfield, in addition to having those longtime veterans like Von Allen-Gilon? Like, for the last couple of years, we've had Von. We've seen what he can do, but what's that like?
It gives us a lot of flexibility. We can play any type of zone. We can play like straight one-on-one defense. We can play like a help man. It gives us so much tactical flexibility. It's been awesome. And especially adding Johnny this year really brought our defense to a whole new level.
Did you know going into this season that you would have all those pieces ready to push you to this point? Did you really feel that on this team?
That was the hope when we first reached out to them and they expressed interest in playing for us. Like, that was definitely the ideal situation, and at Nationals it definitely came to fruition.
I think they're. I mean, a lot of the guys we brought in are clearly very talented. So that goes without saying. It. When you do that, it's just kind of a matter of kind of putting the pieces together in the right place. And I think, like a lot of teams, sometimes you struggle bringing some of those guys, incorporating them into the system. And obviously we started playing our best ultimate at Nationals. So that was awesome to see, at least from a D-line perspective.
Joe White with some unconventional throws out there for the final, and some big attack throws all season. How much trust do you place in him on offense to get the job done? How much of that is stuff that you've come to expect and believe in every time he does it, and how much is just, holy crap, Joe, what are you doing? Oh, okay, it worked, all right.
We've been relying on Joe all season. We have a lot of trust and confidence in his decision making and throws. None of what he did this weekend was unexpected. And it's not like we were ever surprised, like, especially on that scuba. We know he has that. He definitely showed it a lot at practices and such. So nothing was really that unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, Joe's a phenomenal athlete, and he's an outstanding thrower. I mean, and he's still so young, so we know that he can get better. I certainly know that he will, and I certainly love playing on his team. And just some of the things that he can do are that he feels comfortable doing, and he does it with such a smoothness. Is pretty cool to watch. Sometimes, just in the heat of the moment, it might be a little too much here or there, but like, honestly, I thought Joe played great. We certainly wouldn't have had the success that we have had on the O-line to get to this game if it wasn't for the play of Joe.
One of the biggest moments of probably the whole tournament came on defense after the call where Rader got the disc on the goal line and Vaughn comes flying in for that block that I think will be remembered for a long time. Can you talk about the emotions you're going through? You see the big call go Sockeye's way, and then all of a sudden Vaughn makes a giant play?
I still don't know what happened. Did Seth not contest it, or did the observer rule? I don't even know.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. Did it go to the observer? Did that call go to the observer?
Okay. I mean, I think we thought that it was. I thought it was well over his head, so that would not have been a foul. But the call went the way that it did, and I mean, if anybody was going to make that play, I wasn't surprised to see it be Vaughn to come out of nowhere. I mean, he does that pretty consistently, one every couple games, just make an incredible play. But I mean, that's just who Vaughn. I mean, he's got incredible speed. He's got such great closing speed, might be the best in the game. And I think people are starting to see what kind of player that he really is. And I think, and I had caught up personally, so I was almost like, because I was trying to catch up to somebody. I think it was like 3-on-2 or 4-on-2, and I was catching up, and then Vaughn came from essentially out of nowhere, and I was just like, sweet, Vaughn, great play. I mean, all right, we're back again.
We talked a lot about the various big time players who've been added to the D-line, but someone who was getting a lot of D-line run and that we haven't talked a lot about is Seth Weaver. Where did he come from, and is he someone who's earned that playing time over the course of the season, or has he been someone who you've just been lying in wait to spring on everybody?
I'll start. I just heard this the other night. Maybe I should have known it earlier, but Jeff Weiss or Wetz told me that Seth wasn't even going to play this season. I think he goes to school in northern Indiana, and he was just staying at Wetz's house, and there was machine tryouts the next day, and he's like, hey man, you should try out. And he's like, I really don't think I'm going to make the team. And fast forward to national championship weekend, he's on the double game point line. So I think Seth's play, he might be our most improved player from the beginning of the year. I think we all kind of knew he was talented, he was young, he was fast, aggressive, but what I was most impressed with was his poise when he got the disc, because usually some of the younger guys might be a little fidgety with the frisbee or more inconsistent. But Seth was pretty much a rock back there, and it was just so impressive to watch him. To go from completely not even thinking he could make the team to being on the field at double game point in the championship game. It's just really cool to see.
All right. Congratulations on a great season, guys. Thank you very much. On Ultiworld Live, this was Kurt Gibson and Walden Nelson from Chicago Machine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We are live on Ultiworld with the new national champion Seattle Sockeye. We have Dylan Freechild, we have Mike Caldwell, head coach, and Matt Rader.
Matt, first question for you. You've been with this Sockeye team a long time. Did you think it would take 11 years to get this first championship?
Honestly, I thought it was going to take one season, but
Yeah.
after that first season, I thought I had to stick around until we got one.
He's been sticking around the whole time for that.
Yeah, go ahead. It's good.
Mike, you were on Sockey's last championship team. Are there any ways in which this year's team reminds you of that, or is this just a completely new generation, completely new breed?
I think it's completely new. I think if it's closest to any of those teams, it was the 06 team, just because we kind of went wire to wire and we knew exactly where we were aiming for the entire time, and a lot of adversity. But they're all so different, and this is totally unique. There's not really any apt comparison.
Y'all kicked the game off on a strong note on offense. Matt, I noticed you were doing a lot of the distribution Early on, did you come into the game with a game plan to use you more as a thrower or to change up the attack at all to sort of befuddle Machine, or were you just taking the looks that were there?
Yeah, I was just taking the shots that were open. Honestly, we have so many threats on that O-line. It's just kind of, distribute however you see free hands, open hands. You just hit open dudes.
And this question's for Dylan. So we've heard that you picked up a little bit of an injury during warm-ups. Is there any truth to that?
Well, I just got my toe stubbed yesterday, and it hurt.
Hurt real bad?
Yeah, it hurt real bad. But I figured I could just play through it, hopefully. A little toe stub.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic. I'm fine.
So as Edward said earlier, you guys got off to a hot start. Offense and defense both clicking, come out to a big lead, take half, get a break, first point out of half, and Machine refuses to go away. What did you see from them in the second half that allowed them to pull back into the game?
I mean, I kind of said it yesterday, but there's always going to be a small fracture somewhere. It's such a give and take when it comes to momentum that, obviously if you're in the championship game, both teams understand they've built something that they have to rely on. And they had to rely on what they were putting out there regardless of whether they're up 5 or down 5. And, we had the same mentality, right? Whether they break us 4 times in a row, we weren't going to question what we had built. They saw a little crack and they freaking pushed through it hard, right? And, as far as what I was seeing differently, my mind was just fucking racing. I just had to slow down and recognize that, that's a give and take both ways, and kudos to them for freaking pushing through that. But, nothing really changed for us.
I mean, I think it was obviously a mental switch, right? They were flying around at the start of the second half, right? They were really throwing their bodies around, and I was expecting them to start off the game like that. They just started a little slower than I think we all expected.
How do you go from a Saturday night game under the lights, big rowdy crowd, to all of a sudden you're playing at noon, just a few hours later, it's hazy, overcast, a little chilly? How do you handle that sort of energy shift from big crazy game to this?
That's like our backyard. That's like Saturday practice, Sunday practice, We play in this kind of environment. Our practices are very similar to this. I don't know.
Practice like you play, I guess. And then last one from me here. From that machine zone that they threw at you a couple times, particularly in the beginning of the second half, a really long, grinding, upwind point against it that worked out. Any similarities between that zone and the zone that your defense runs? And did you take anything from playing against your defense to that you were able to implement against Machine today?
Should we tell them?
No.
No. I mean, there's some similarities. I think one of the things that makes Machine unique among top teams in their way is they take chances, and when they take a chance, they commit 100%. Johnny Bansfield laying out on the mark in a zone like that is not really something you see very much. But we had Ben Snell doing that in our quarterfinal against Sub-Zero. There's the ability to sustain that intensity, I think, was what really impressed me about them today. We threw I don't know how many passes on that particular point, and they were fighting just as hard and just as energetically at the end as they were at the very beginning. So all credit to them.
This question is for Dylan.
Say it.
I'd love to hear what you think right in this moment. What does this title mean to you?
I don't know. It's just a huge weight off my shoulders. I'm sure Raider feels the same way, but as many people know, I feel like I've been at big games, and I've learned slowly how to mentally prepare and perform. And I take a lot of pride in where I'm from, and I feel like I carry a lot of weight, probably self-imposed, before Eugene and Portland, and now Seattle, and it's something that I think very few people in the division get scrutinized based on championships. There are a lot of people who win championships, and a lot of people who don't win championships, and a lot of you guys who like to bring it up in regards to 1 or 2 names in the division. And so yeah, it's a lot of fucking pressure, and I'm happy to get that off my shoulders.
Matt, same question.
I I felt like, after a certain amount of years playing, I was gonna get one. I've been playing for so long, and I knew I was gonna get one here or there. And we're just coming into our primes. It was a great group of dudes. Yeah.
Quick question for Dylan. So, after Janin toes in that final score, you sort of tore around, running with your arms up. What were you looking for? You were just kind of running all over the field. Was there someone or something in particular you were looking for?
I don't know. Someone to just take me away.
Hold me.
Yeah. So I just collapsed into Eli's arms, I guess.
I just got a question on, they really kind of took it to you guys in the second half there on D. What was it on the line on double game point? What did you look around and tell yourselves, or what was the feeling on the line?
I didn't know it was double game point. I didn't know yesterday it was double game point.
That's how you do it.
Just go play.
We had just kept saying nothing changes. I think this team embodied the idea of, I've said it a few times, building something and just trusting it. I think that's been my biggest downfall as a player and captain, is like when that doubt starts to creep in. We needed 2 big holds yesterday to win that game, and when they came back and tied at 11s, we just looked at each other and we needed 2 big holds go in the same direction to win this game, and it didn't have to be any different than it was last night, and it wasn't.
Mike, how has it been as a player for a long time in Sockeye, and how does it feel as a coach now to win a championship? And what's the difference between the two, and how's it been transitioning from a player to a coach?
To my surprise, the championship feels totally unique, like just different, like totally different. I don't want to start quoting Madonna lyrics or anything, but it felt like my first championship. The role is really different. For years and years and years, being as a player, you're focused on like what you can bring, what you can contribute, doing your job, and trying to be the best you can be in that way. And as a coach, your job is to make everyone else better. To sort of taking the same thing and turning it inside out. And I didn't know what it would feel like to win with a team, having been with them that way all year. It wasn't what I expected. It was overwhelming, frankly. It was incredible.
Last question for me, I guess. Yeah, wire to wire all season. What was it about this team that you were able to really be one of the top teams, if not the top team, all season long?
Last year sucked.
Yeah.
Didn't want that again.
The year before that also sucked. So, I think it's mental fortitude. This is the most mentally strong group of dudes that I played with in a while. I played on many different teams, not necessarily in club, but nationally. And it has a similar feel. Dudes they just know that there's this competitive drive to be the best and do your job to contribute to the group as a whole. And I think it was just mental strength, honestly, and belief.
All right. Congratulations, guys. On ultiworld.com. National champions Dylan Freechild, Mike Caldwell, and Matt Rader. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, dudes.